What's up, everybody, man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla -2 news and updates. Today we're going to be diving in depth with Godzilla The Ride Great Clash, picking up right where we left off in the last Godzilla -1 news and updates, or Godzilla -2. And today we will be finally talking about Godzilla -1's first ever official battle. Of course, previously Godzilla The Ride fought King Ghidorah. Godzilla -1 was a solo movie, and leading into Takashi Yamazaki's Godzilla -1 sequel, the -1 Godzilla returns for Godzilla The Ride Great Clash, in which he fights Mechagodzilla Zero Beast G-Breaker. So let's jump into it all, and I'll go through all the awesome details there. Woof, I feel so out of practice making videos, but I'm happy to be back making these with you guys. It's been a little while. As I've mentioned in other videos, thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate all the support on the channel, including in a recent video where I unboxed my 100k play button. Thank you guys so much. As this is my first Godzilla news and updates in quite a while, make sure you hype the video down below and also like the video, but hype the video. I want to see what it does. I want to see what that does. So hype the video right now. Thank you guys all for sticking with me and for supporting me, and I got some news to catch up on. So today let's jump on into it, and I want to start out with some artwork like always. This first piece comes to us from Momaku, and this is their Godzilla -1 poster art. Of course, this is the Godzilla -1 poster, but it's done in sketch form. It just looks fantastic. I always love the monocolor artwork. I think that this looks amazing, so I wanted to show that off. This next one comes to us from GNA. This is so fantastic. Always a big fan of GNA, but this is the Godzillasaurus evolution art with the Godzilla Odo Island version. I love that he includes the palm trees around him, standing in the silhouette of Godzilla -1, showing that path, that evolution. It's so sick. Finally, speaking of Mechagodzilla, here's a Mechagodzilla look that I haven't seen before. This is, of course, from TTM81's Mechagodzilla Absolute Zero fan animation, and this is an up-close look at their Mechagodzilla face sculpt. I gotta say, I think it's fantastic. I really, really love all the work they put into it. It's got a very Mechagodzilla 74 aesthetic, especially with that nose, but man, I love the attention to detail here. The paneling on it is amazing. I love that he's almost got like speakers on his head. Just little details like the pipes coming out of that socket in between his eyes, the actual metal grating in front of the eye lenses, and then those red LED lights all throughout. He looks so cool. And of course, if you haven't seen Mechagodzilla Absolute Zero, it is a very short fan film, but it's very well done. It was done by a high school student, I believe, which is crazy. Takashi Yamazaki was a big fan of it, and it features a steampunk version of Mechagodzilla, or something similar to steampunk, I should say, but it's very cool. Let's get into Godzilla The Ride Great Clash, starting out right where we left off in the last one. Let's jump into this Chunichi article about Godzilla The Ride Great Clash's premiere. So on July 31st, Takashi Yamazaki and actress Riko Fukumoto attended a press event for the opening of Godzilla The Ride Great Clash. Fukumoto, of course, is the poster actress for Godzilla The Ride Giant Battle. What the heck is it called? I can never remember. It's like Godzilla Great Monster Summit or something. I never remember what it's called. Dang it. I have it written down. I will say the name later. But Fukumoto is the poster actress for that. Yamazaki praised the pre-show for the Great Clash, saying that it was incredibly immersive and that the experience of writing Great Clash was so thrilling that despite being the one who made it, he actually found it to be scary himself. He reiterates multiple times he was truly scared writing this ride. Fukumoto backed him up, celebrating the vibrations, the splashes of water, and how realistic it was. She said it felt so realistic she felt like she was actually on the boat and was on the edge of her seat thinking Godzilla was gonna eat her the whole ride. Yamazaki explains, of course, that this ride was inspired by the ocean sequences in Godzilla -1 due to the fact that the characters had nowhere to run to escape Godzilla. It made it very captivating for him. And then this is something we covered in the last video. If you haven't seen my last Godzilla -1 news and updates, or Godzilla -2, go check that video out right now. I go into a lot more depth about this. We talk a lot more about Godzilla's potential enemy in the -1 sequel, but for now, Takashi Yamazaki gives us our first official details about Godzilla's enemy in the -1 sequel, in a roundabout way, stating, "I've always wanted to try making Mechagodzilla, and it's not easy to include it in the world of my Godzilla films, so I thought now's the time. I don't often get get the chance to make my own Mechagodzilla, so I was really happy this time. Of course, that is translated from Japanese, so maybe there's a mistranslation there, but that does two very important things. First of all, this is an underrated quote, but stating that in his world of Godzilla films, it's hard to include Mechagodzilla, I think outright directly confirms, which we know it, but no one at Toho has stated it officially with their full chest. Even Yamazaki here is not stating it with his full chest, but rather talking around it. This is our first time Yamazaki has officially referred to the new Godzilla film Toho's working on as a sequel, or set in the same world of Godzilla -1. There's still, kind of crazy, no confirmation it's an official direct sequel to Godzilla -1 following directly on the events of that movie and in the same time period. But again, taking all the info, Yamazaki saying it's hard to include Mechagodzilla due to the time period of that obviously being set in the 40s, 50s. It would be really hard to include Mechagodzilla realistically. And then also saying that in the world he's created with Godzilla -1, Mechagodzilla wouldn't really fit. So therefore we can establish the next movie is going to be a Godzilla -1 sequel. It will be another period piece, and Mechagodzilla will not be in it because the technology isn't there yet, which means we're probably going with another more grounded movie, just like Godzilla -1, where the human technology is on a much smaller, more realistic scale. Of course, the only technological leap Godzilla -1 makes is with the Toho Balloon Company's giant inflatables. That's the only technological leap in that whole movie. I'm very excited for that. I love that. That was one of the things that got me most excited about Godzilla 2014, and so I love that we're finally getting a continuity that's following up on, like, what if the monsters were in the real world, then what? This is kind of a bizarre website, but Girls News covered Godzilla The Ride Great Clash's opening as well, so let's jump through that article. It's very focused on Fukumoto, as you could expect based on the title of that website, but here they feature tons of images of Fukumoto and Yamazaki at the press event. They do feature some pre-show images, which I think are very cool. They have an image of the Sabune Amusement Park's theater room. This is the theater that you see in the background there. That's the theater that Great Clash is actually housed in. They have a picture inside that theater. And then we do have some photos of the pre-show room with this soldier character. He works for Edge. I love the costuming on him, standing in front of the holographic display going all behind him. This is the hangar bay where you can see Mechagodzilla and the Goose Nest ship. And then you see some of the audience, like this kid's taking it very seriously, saluting him as they're accepting their mission to go take on Godzilla. It's awesome. They also feature some images of that wonderful Mechagodzilla model, which we'll continue to talk about over this video, but the new Takashi Yamazaki Mechagodzilla design, and boy do I think that model looks fantastic. One detail I think is really cool that's also kind of subtle is that the model's in the same position as Godzilla in the Godzilla -1 poster. He's striking the same position if you look at him from the right angle. He is capturing the same angle of Godzilla from that -1 poster, which is super cool. A super cool way to compare the two designs. I also didn't notice he's got that enormous cannon like fin on his back. Super dope, but that really large jet booster fin on his back is super cool. I wonder if that's like a giant weapon in Great Clash, like a cannon or something built on his back, or a battery maybe even. I don't know. It looks really cool though. I really am starting to love this new Mechagodzilla design, in particular in these images of the model, but I'll get back to that in just a minute. Fukumoto said she loves thrill rides and found this one to be fantastic and exciting. Then I thought it was interesting that this article translates a little differently than the others, translating Mechagodzilla's name as Type-0 Space-Time Gravity Cannon Beast G-Breaker. That's very different than just the normal Mechagodzilla Type-0 Beast G-Breaker. That's a lot of extra words. I don't think that's relevant to the plot, but could you imagine a Mechagodzilla with a space-time gravity cannon? That's I don't think that's what's attached to his back, but that'd be a tough thing for Godzilla to fight, to say the least. He'd have to go up against Snow Godzilla from the Shin anime, where Godzilla also had atomic breath that could distort space-time. Fukumoto shares that she was actually really worried while riding the ride for the first time that her slippers would slip off and she'd lose them because the ride was so intense. Fukumoto states she felt Yamazaki's immediate love for Godzilla upon first meeting him and finds him to be a really warm person. The Mechagodzilla model is then revealed, and it was announced that it will be appearing in the pre-show room and it will be on display for the public to see following this event. Getting back to that Mechagodzilla, like I said, they did reveal the thing. We have tons of images of it. It's so cool. Like I said, striking the same pose as Godzilla from the -1 poster. Very sweet. I love the silvers on it. It's really neat. Looks so cool. They've picked a great material and a great paint for it. Love the glowing yellow eye. Love the Edge logo on his shoulder pad. That's so cool. I find the face looks a lot lot better here. The cannon inside the mouth looks a lot better here than in that first reveal image. I actually think the neck looks a lot cooler as well. One thing I think is really cool about the neck is that you can see it's made of a material that almost stretches, explaining how Mechagodzilla would have some sort of flexibility without all being metallic panels. Like this looks like maybe a rubbery material that can stretch with him and gives him some more mobility. I think it's very cool. The whole thing looks sick, and I love that they revealed it with all that smoke around it. That looks great. My friend Giwa Chen, who's a Japanese Godzilla YouTuber, go check him out. He's great. He visited the opening of Godzilla The Ride Great Clash. He's holding up this little newspaper here, and we actually have a close-up image of this newspaper. This newspaper is very fun. This was given out to attendees of Godzilla The Ride Great Clash, and it actually does reveal some stuff. So first of all, it reveals that figures are on display. Of course, Godzilla The Ride, the figure from the first ride, is on display, as well as some others. They have a collaborative menu, which looks very yummy and also way more like Godzilla than many of the other collaborative menus they release. It gives a little bit of plot details here, stating that in the ride, Godzilla reappeared and attacked the Gulf Coast area before disappearing into the sea, lurking in nearby waters. Basically, this newspaper in some ways is pretending to be in-universe, like just after Godzilla's attack, right? So Godzilla has appeared, he's attacked the Gulf coastal area, he's disappeared into nearby waters, and to prevent further damage, Edge is deploying to find Godzilla and track him down until they can combat him. A diagram of Godzilla and Edge's detection system is seen down below. That's very neat. And then to the side of that, we see a map that tracks Godzilla's destruction as he attacks buildings and battles air corpses before disappearing into the ocean. Under the map is a deployment notice for Edge, including civilian operatives, which is you, the audience, who Edge is going to be using to help them locate and find Godzilla quickly before he resurfaces and causes more destruction. Once located and discovered, an annihilation strategy will be launched with the Godzilla suppression weapon Type-0 Mechanical Beast G-Breaker, aka Mechagodzilla, and this will be that weapon's first deployment. So that sets the stage for where in the world this takes place. Here's a closer look at that newspaper front page with that really cool Godzilla The Ride image on it. I love that image so much. Early attendees were reported in saying this is Yamazaki's finest creation. 2U1107 claimed that it's good enough to die for, sharing some images from their time at the ride, including some posters, the actual wall that the press event was held in front of, photos of the Sabune amusement park, and then of course just their little experience overall. And then finally here, unfortunately I was wrong in a previous video. I questioned if maybe Naoki Sato was responsible for the score of Godzilla The Ride Great Clash, as we'll talk about here in a second. A clip for Godzilla The Ride Great Clash was released. We'll break it down here in just a moment. That clip features some epic music, and other than that, in the teaser, we don't know what the music in the ride itself sounds like, but we do now have confirmation. Takumi Hasegawa announced themselves as the music recorder and mixer for Godzilla The Ride Great Clash, saying that it was the ultimate experience and hyping up the ride coming out. So that is our music recorder for this ride. Maybe not necessarily even the composer, but it seems like they're the ones who recorded the music, which is kind of a bummer because man, the music in that Great Clash teaser clip is so awesome. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, the Sabune Amusement Park's homepage, I've got a link down below, you can go check it out, gives some details on Godzilla The Ride Great Clash and gives us our first official footage from it. They announced that Godzilla The Ride Great Clash was made to celebrate and continue the excitement for Godzilla The Ride Great Monster Summit Showdown, the 2021 ride. That's what it's called according to this translation. They tried to make this one much better than the last, with a stronger emphasis on the shocking ride motions, which are linked better to the audiovisual experience for this film. This one will also feature water and wind effects. They give a little story description here. I've broken a lot of this down before, so let me speed through this. They say, through a secret entrance at the amusement park, you enter the Goose Nest flagship facility for Edge. The pre-show introduces audiences to the mission leader, who debriefs them that Godzilla has just attacked the Bay Area and is tasking you with locating him so that they can deploy Mechagodzilla. Visuals of Godzilla's Bay attack are shown to attendees, which is pretty cool. There is also a physical model of Mechagodzilla on display, the one we've talked about, and a CG version of Mechagodzilla in these hangars, which represent him at full scale. Then a Yamazaki bio is given, stating that he joined Shirogumi in 1986 and made his directorial debut with Juvenile, and has since become a leading figure in Japanese VFX and filmmaking. His work on Always, Sunset on 3rd Street, was a showcase of VFX by transforming Tokyo into its Showa era presentation. It was also praised for its heartwarming humanity. Yamazaki's career grew, as did the number of awards he's won, until Godzilla -1 became the highest grossing Japanese live action film in the United States and received received high praise and many awards, including the first Academy Award for a Godzilla film. That leads to the teaser clip itself. The teaser clip has some awesome music that I've posted on the channel. I tried to stitch together in how I thought it would go. I was pretty off. I was trying to use Divine as the basis for it, Divine and Resolution. It kind of gave vibes of both of those songs, so I tried to create one that gave the vibes of those, and I was off the mark. This was not Naoki Sato's work. This was actually the song Storm by Shahid Mostafara. It's on YouTube. You can go check it out. It's very cool. Kicks a lot of butt, but unfortunately it is not in the style of Divine like I thought. Maybe we're getting our first glimpse at what the soundtrack might be heading towards in the sequel for -1, and unfortunately we're not. The clip features Mechagodzilla taking on Godzilla in the city while your little goose ship flies around. It's very cool, very dynamic. As we'll talk about, the fight choreography is reminiscent of Godzilla vs. Kong, with Mechagodzilla grabbing Godzilla like that. I think that's sick. Love the way he grabs Godzilla, swings him around, and hucks him over. Of course, this is in the Bay Area nearby the Sabian Amusement Park. One of the reasons I'm a little curious how this is going to translate beyond the actual Sabian Amusement Park is this is supposed to go international at some point. Mechagodzilla grabs Godzilla and absolutely hucks him through the air. Super awesome. Love the way Godzilla slides. And we get a really good close-up look at Godzilla here. This is a combo version of Godzilla -1 and Godzilla The Ride. This is the Godzilla -1 design with the spines of Godzilla The Ride. These are the original Godzilla The Ride's spines on the body of Godzilla -1. This is not the body of Godzilla The Ride. There are many differences. Mostly it has to do with the face itself. The face here is the face of Godzilla -1. He actually opens his mouth a little wider than he does in -1. Like, I don't think Godzilla's opening his mouth this wide in -1, but either way, very cool. What I really love is this look at Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla looks sick in action. You can see what I was saying, kind of the stretching rubbers on the neck, allowing Mechagodzilla to really extend himself, which is really cool. Very different than what we've seen before. I just love the way Mechagodzilla throws Godzilla and then catches his balance. That's fun too, the way he like has to take a step back. This is obviously an epic beam battle moment. Very classic Godzilla stuff right here with the monsters shooting their beams at each other. This is something that we've seen in many Godzilla films. Important details here. First of all the smoke billowing behind Godzilla. Now at first, I thought it was smoke rising out of Godzilla as he charges his spines, and as awesome of an idea as that is and as cool as that sounds, I don't think that's what's happening here. I think Godzilla was thrown into something that exploded and he's now standing in the remains of it. He's charging up and his blue spines are reflecting onto the smoke, making it look like the smoke is coming out of him. But man, I think it would be really awesome if when Godzilla charged up, smoke poured out of him. One thing that's really cool here is if you look very closely, Godzilla's spines click back into his back just like in Godzilla -1. Another difference with Godzilla, the original Godzilla The Ride, is that his spines did not eject and then click in like Godzilla -1. And then he does the same head snapping motion as Godzilla -1, snapping his head forward and unleashing the beam. Meanwhile, oh my god, I totally nailed it with Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla has this hyper cannon in his mouth that fires this green beam. It's also the first time we've ever seen like a Mechagodzilla or a kaiju with a green beam like this. Similarly, Mechagodzilla charges up his spines now and you can see the green glowing throughout his back. This is, I believe, the first time we've ever seen Mechagodzilla charge up in the same way as Godzilla. I cannot believe it took this long, but Mechagodzilla does not normally charge up his spines in such a vibrant and visual way. I think that this is awesome. I really love it, and I like that it more directly mirrors Godzilla. This is actually a great look right here with the cannon sticking way out of Mechagodzilla's mouth, which is not how we're used to seeing it. And then it fires at Godzilla, they beam clash, the beams collide midair. Very cool. I love the mistiness of Godzilla's breath as it hits the beam here. Then we get this really cool little glimpse of the goose ship underwater as Godzilla strikes at it. Very cool to see Godzilla attacking like this. He looks super menacing coming out of the ocean. Very scary, the fact that he can disappear into darkness and then reappear out of nowhere. That is sick. And then one thing I think is very funny is you never think about the way Godzilla's leg and feet stick out while he's swimming, but here we get a little look at that, which is very fun. The next clip shows Godzilla chasing the ship down at sea. Looks like we're actually heading right towards him and then he catches up to us and we start to pull away. This is obviously very -1 inspired and is also where we get that first teaser reveal image of Godzilla's mouth chomping at the ship right about here. That's where we get the first teaser image, is this. This is it in action. So now we know Godzilla's gonna swim out. Love the way the water's crashing against his spines here. Very good look at those very Godzilla The Ride styled spines. And then Godzilla strikes at us and is blasted by this ship in the air. Huge explosion goes on and then Godzilla looks up and it's the other one. So there are two of these goose ships. We're on one. There's a second one flying around and I bet you anything Godzilla destroys this one, raising the stakes. weeks because we're like, oh my god, if he destroyed that one, he can destroy us too. I just think this is also a really awesome visual of Godzilla fighting this flying goose ship in the air. That is so cool. What do you think about that? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that epic fight down below. Comment below and let me know what you guys think about it. I think it is so awesome. Twitter user Bam actually confirmed after seeing Godzilla The Ride Great Clash that it is the -1 Godzilla with updated dorsal spines. Of course, I've already discussed the update to the dorsal spines is changing them to be more like Godzilla The Ride. As I've stated, it is the -1 design. You can especially tell in the face, and in particular the teeth give it away that it's the -1 Godzilla and not the original Godzilla The Ride. He also has a much sharper design than Godzilla The Ride. He's also a little more gray than brown. His arms are also more like this than this, where Godzilla The Ride's arms are more like this. So that's another little distinction. As I've speculated many times, one reason you would shrink Godzilla -1's dorsal spines is because if he's the size he was in Godzilla -1 with the dorsal spine size he had in Godzilla -1, it really limits your ability to produce action sequences with that Godzilla. It makes him really hard to approach from the back. Mechagodzilla is not going to be able to reach around and grab his neck like that and throw him through the air with those enormous spines he had in -1. And also the CGI model, the spines are going to clip into each other. They're going to hit one another. They're going to collide. You want the spines to be solid objects so they can't just be phasing through each other, and it would get really complicated really quick. I mean, that's particularly what we've seen with the recent CGI Godzillas. Now that Godzilla's got the flexibility that he never really had when he was a guy in a suit, they're allowing Godzilla to move and twist his body in ways that he really didn't get to do before, but that means that the spines always have the ability to bump and phase through each other. It's why Godzilla Evolved has a really noticeable, enormous spine gap on his back to avoid that exact issue from happening, while still giving him longer spines. And so all of this to say, given that there will be an enemy monster in the Godzilla -1 sequel, I'm very confident that Godzilla -1's new design in the sequel will have smaller spines. I think whatever Godzilla's evolution undergoes for this next movie, the spines will be shrunken down to make room for combat. And this is our first indication of that. Mr. Goji put together this little comparison that I thought was a lot of fun, showing the original Godzilla The Ride throwing King Ghidorah versus this one where Mechagodzilla throws Godzilla. I think that's a lot of fun, showing that comparison. Rick the Squirrel put together a couple compilation clips comparing Godzilla The Ride Great Clash to Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, I understand where Rick's coming from and that he personally feels like it's too similar. I don't think it's too similar at all. As I've brought up in other videos, Godzilla The Ride Great Monster Summit Showdown had a lot of similarities to Godzilla King of the Monsters. A lot of them. So many shots paralleled directly from Godzilla King of the Monsters, and there were some visuals in Godzilla -1 that were very similar to visuals seen in Godzilla vs. Kong. I do acknowledge that there is a huge similarity between the visuals seen in Godzilla The Ride Great Clash and Godzilla vs. Kong, but I would also say almost every single one of these shots was first done in the Millennium era of Godzilla films. Almost every single one of them comes straight from the Millennium era, and the beam clash itself dates all the way back to 1974. As you can see here, this is a really cool beam battle comparison that Mr. Goji put together of all the times Godzilla's gotten into a beam clash with Mechagodzilla, starting in 1974. We have two of them from 1993. There's the one from Godzilla vs. Kong and the one here. Interestingly enough, Godzilla's only ever been on the right side of frame the one time in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 1974. And that is where I will leave you for today. I'm pretty sure that's going to be my last major coverage for Godzilla The Ride Great Clash, so thank you guys so much for all the support, unless I can eventually get out there and review it for you guys myself, which is not looking great for me, but I wish. That'd be great. But until that day, I'm pretty sure from here on we're moving back into the movie territory, and also I will be jumping back into the Monsterverse to catch up on Monsterverse news soon enough. So stick around for that. I would really appreciate it. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, and thank you for your patience over the last little while. I've been a little bit gone on the channel for a little while. I've had a lot going on, including working on a kaiju film of my own, although I'm not directing it or anything. I was actually the photographer on it, but still very fun. And yeah, I just want to say thank you guys all to the patrons. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. If that's not your thing, please consider joining as a channel member. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next time for the next one. D-Man, out.